All right. Getting into medical school is not an average thing. In fact, if you want to get into medical school, you'll have to embrace this philosophy where honestly, like, fuck being average. Getting into medical school is an extraordinary feat, which means that you have to do ordinary things extra times, or you have to do things that are better than ordinary. Like, as a reminder, the average pre-med applicant applies with something like a 3.64 GPA, a 506 on the MCAT. On average, they apply to 15 to 25 schools and get in nowhere, right? That's the average applicant. 60% don't get in anywhere, even though they apply to 24 schools. In order to beat the odds, you have to have a portfolio that is exceptional. It's not normal to have a 3.9. It's not normal to have a 520 on your MCAT. It's not normal to land a strong research experience and grow in it for 2 or 3 years. Same with community services, same with clinical experience. It's not normal to have that level of intentionality or self-awareness or maturity that we see in some of the best pre-med applicants. Doesn't mean that you're better than your other colleagues, but it does mean that it is not average, right? Remember, like, medicine is a fantastic profession, and I'm grateful every day for the stuff that we get to do. We get to help people, we get some respect from our colleagues and from society at large. We get to use our brains and our loves of science and our hands to do things that can help real people. And of course, like, we're compensated more than fair for the stuff that we do. And so there's going to be a huge bottleneck for all the members of society that want that. The point of this video for me is to tell other people who have similar situations to me. Maybe your situation is different. Maybe your brother and your father and your uncle and your sister and your aunts are all physicians and they know how it's done and they walked you through it from day one. Maybe your situation is worse than mine, where you have to work 2 or 3 full-time jobs. You're the primary caretaker at home for your younger siblings or cousins. Your situation will be different than mine. But I'm sharing my experience as someone with 2 immigrant parents, both of which had no idea how higher education worked. My mother didn't even finish high school. My experience at UCLA, the public school that churns the most amount of pre-meds out, is that it's a dog-eat-dog world. And getting to the top of that and surviving that required a ton of freaking hard work. And what that looks like is, for example, when I was trying to get shadowing, I don't know how many people have gotten shadowing that's listening to this, but in my understanding, I didn't have anyone in the family who was a doctor. My thought was I would send 10 emails to all the physicians that were closest to Chinatown, where I was living at the time, or the east of LA, kind of where my folks were. I would send 10 emails, and undoubtedly half of them would say yes or no or whatever. I sent 100 emails, 10 times that amount. The majority of people didn't respond. The 8 people who did respond said no. And the 1 person who responded said yes and gave me a week to shadow him during winter break. And that opened the door to a week shadowing his neurologist colleague for another week. And that opened the doors, and that's how I got my shadowing experience. But if you were to ask me to guess how much effort it would take, it took 100 handcrafted emails. I researched their website, I looked at their education, I tried to find some commonality between the 2 of us to make it a personalized email. And it took 100 of those. That's the kind of work that I had to put in to get the experience that I needed. It's the same for my community service and my clinical experience and my research. And I'm telling you this not to discourage you, but I'm telling you this so that you can have expectations on what the journey looks like. If you are interested in becoming a doctor and my story or background is anything like yours, then it will be helpful for you to know what to expect. That way, you're not surprised. And this is the reason I make these videos, is so that at the very least, you guys have a sense of what is coming down the pipe. And that's the price of admission. If you're still interested after knowing the price of admission, and that's your prerogative, and you can say yes or no. And that's actually the most important thing I want to highlight, is that this is difficult, and you're not a better person just because you underwent the difficulty. You're not a worse person because you underwent the difficulty. My entire job is to just spread awareness as to what it looks like. What is the exact price of admission? And if you choose to go down that route, by all means, I'm here to help however I can by sharing my experience or sharing what has worked for me in the past. But if you also say, dude, I'm a young 20-year-old in college, I don't want any of that, then it's also your prerogative to say, no, that's not a price I'm willing to pay. And you are not better or worse for it. Too many of my colleagues have made, honestly, a lot of people would arguably say, the smart and right decision of exiting the medicine rat race. And I am not here to make a decision for you. I'm here to tell you what it's like for me and for all the hundreds of thousands of students that we supported, so that you can decide for yourself. So yeah, if you do want to become a medical student, an eventual doctor, you're going to have to do extraordinary things. You're going to have to say, fuck being average, because being average does not get you into medical school. All right, talk to you guys soon. See you soon. Bye.